We are a week away from football. The new jerseys are out, and is this Nick Martin guy maybe starting to show some of the promise the 49ers saw in him? We'll break it all down on today's Gold Standard podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast, part of the Pro Football Insiders. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Johnny Dale from the Johnny Dale Football Academy on YouTube. What's up, Johnny?
Oh, man, it is finally here. We are less than 10 days away from the start of the regular season. Let's go. Getting guys. I'm not going to say it. Because I don't want to jinx it, but we're getting some players.
You did.
Maybe around for when it matters.
What I said yesterday on the show is Upton Stout and Jordan James returned to practice. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm just going to state the fact, and we're going to move on because that's what we're going to do here on the show. Before we get to our Nick Martin breakdown, the new jerseys are out, Johnny. Finally, after a lot of speculation, the rivalry jerseys are here, all black with the saloon font numbers in red with the gold outline and a black shadow. Your thoughts?
Well, one, I was really surprised. They updated it in Madden this morning. So kudos to the NFL and EA for being together on this. I know you had said that you saw a leak of this before and were not that impressed. It's fascinating because I was on my show, I think it was a month ago. We were talking about these jerseys, and I said, I feel like it's going to be very similar to the 2015 jerseys, and where I think they're going to go all black. And the issue I had with the all black was I wanted either some gold around the lettering and the helmet to match a little bit better, because it felt like the all black with the red letters and then a gold helmet was just a weird pairing. It was kind of like somebody created a jersey in 1998 NFL Pro, the old video game, that you could do just like block colors at a time. But then I saw them and I was like, I think I wasn't 100% right. It wasn't as good as I thought it would make it better. I just kind of am like, okay, it feels like what a jersey should have been designed for 15 years ago, when it was like black for the sake of black was cool on a jersey. And because everyone saw the Ravens jerseys and those were really great, the all blacks that they had. And then it was like, oh, can we all do something with black? Of course, I do realize there's only so many color schemes when you have red and gold as your primaries that you can do, because an all gold jersey, it would not look good at all. No. So, I mean, it's either going to be all whites, which you already have, all reds, which would be weird to have red pants and red jersey, or you have to go black. So I understand that there's only so many different directions they can go. Seeing it, I'm like, it's okay. I do like that they brought some saloon font in to tie it back to the 49ers, but I'm not in love, but I don't hate it.
So I had seen these jerseys a little while, probably like a month or so ago, on a mannequin, and I did not love them. But I have noticed this weird thing with jerseys where they can look better on people than they do on mannequins, and they can look better during a game than they do in like the photo shoots that they do for social media. And I have to say, I like the jerseys better seeing them on a person than I like them on a mannequin. I don't know. I'm interested to see how they look on the field. I wish the helmet was black matte instead of shiny, because it's a shiny black. I wish they went with the black matte finish, but it's a black helmet with a gold face mask. I don't know. I'm not really super impressed with it, but they're out now at least. We're not going to get to see them until week 18. So, we've had all this build up, and then they release it, and then they're not going to be able to actually see it on the field until the final week of the regular season.
Yeah.
They're out now, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the NFL is going to make a ton of money selling these jerseys, so that's really what it's all about. So, and that way, the salary cap can increase, and we'll see. I mean, that's what this is really about. It's just about selling more jerseys. But hey, that's what we do as fans. We buy the jerseys, and we keep the NFL teams well funded.
Look, Chad York just paid a lot of money for a lot of stadium renovations. Okay. He needs money. We have to help Jed out. I'm just trying to think of the billionaires, Johnny. That's all I'm saying.
You're so gracious.
We'll see. We'll see those jerseys in week 18. Now, on today's show, what we want to talk about is Nick Martin, because what we do on this show is we break down players or narratives that are out there, and we look at the film to decide, are they true, are they not true, or is it somewhere in between? Nick Martin is a guy that kind of, got crushed a little bit after his professional debut in week 1 of the preseason. But since then, I feel like the general opinion on Nick Martin is that he has taken some big steps. So whenever that happens, I text Johnny and I say, we got to talk about this. And you graciously agree to dig up some examples for us that either prove it, disprove it, or at least just give us more information than we already had. So when you look at number 45, weirdest number for a linebacker ever, Nick Martin, Johnny, what do you see?
I see somebody who is starting to play with a lot more decisiveness and is starting to really play fast. And that's when his speed jumps off the tape, is when he can play fast. When he's a little indecisive, he's not sure about what he's seeing, he plays a little slow, and it doesn't really let him shine. But here he can play fast. And one thing, we looked at his college tape back after he was drafted, and the things we talked about was incredible chase down speed, tracking speed, and when he sees it, he'll go fill it with violence. And so those are the two things that you want to see. And big shout out here to Greg Roman with coming with the pro set out of the backfield. I mean, we got two running backs in a 3-point stance with a fullback offset next to the halfback. I mean, we haven't seen this since like the 90s. So way to go, Greg Roman, on this. But this is going to be called just 24 lead. Most NFL teams will call this 94 lead. They usually refer to the halfback as a 9-back system. I grew up in, it was a 2-back. So 94 lead is going to be just a lead block down. So you get fullback on your linebacker. Sometimes called ISO. Just depends on what the system calls it, which is an isolation block on the linebacker. They're trying to get on Nick Martin. That's the goal here, is get the fullback on Nick Martin, kick him out, and the running back's going to come up behind that and be on the safety. That's what they want. Well, when you have a linebacker with speed and that sees it and is going to fill it, and this did not play in true speed, it's wanting to play at half speed. I don't know why. When you have a linebacker who can see it and go fill it like Nick Martin's going to do here, he's going to stuff the fullback, bam, in the hole, and he's going to hold that up and make the tackle. That's what I love to see that from a linebacker. You want linebackers to fill aggressively, stick that fullback in the hole, and plug everything up. So I love the way he fills. I love the way he's going to attack with his inside shoulder to the outside shoulder of the fullback. That is what you want to do. That is great fundamentals there of getting it, because if you can't make this tackle on the outside, you force him back inside to Curtis Robinson. Really good fundamentals on his fill. I like that. So there it is. He fills it, and because he had the fundamentals, kept his outside arm clean, he's able to make the tackle. He sees it and fills it. Then here you're going to have a little counter tray that the Chargers are running. So they're going to pull this guard. He's going to come try and kick out the end. They're going to get up and run this ball off the backside. Well, they do a good job, especially the end here. The thing is Travis Gibson. He stuffs the end up pretty good. Nick Martin, we play a 1-gap system, so he's got to fill the B gap on his side. And from there, if it's a run away from him, he looks to fill, and then he'll look to scrape down and pick up the trash down the line. Well, they always, the saying with linebackers is go slow until you know. And here, that's what he does. He sees the run. He's going to peek, make sure it's not coming into his gap. And then he's going to continue going slow. And he makes contact, but he's still reading into his gap. That's what I like. Because this running back's going to end up, because his plugged up front side is going to come all the way back to his hole. And that's where he disengages and punches the ball out. Love that. He did what you want him to do. He held his gap. And when the run came to it, he was able to go punch the ball out and attack the ball. I like seeing all of that from him. Again, when the speed can start showing on the field, here they're going to try and run this inside, and the running back's going to bounce it out. I've got Nick Martin circled. Just watch the closing speed here on this running back as he bounces this outside. That is tracking speed. That's chase down speed. That is what makes him special. Now, I will also say this guy probably earned himself a cut. I don't know who he is. I didn't look it up, but I doubt he made the team because he's going to whiff on his first block and then he's going to go whiff on his second block. When you get a two for one on whiffing your blocks in a game, usually you don't make the roster. He whiffs on the first one. Oh, and then he whiffs on the second one.
Ooh,
but
that's not
but just to show that we're not the only team that has that kind of stuff. But watch Nick Martin, and especially the end zone view. You can see this track down speed on a running back. My goodness. I mean, these are the things that just fly off the tape.
That was exciting to see. I mean, Saleh has said it, but you can clearly, when you listen to Saleh's comments and watch 2 seconds, he's exactly right. When he sees it and recognizes what is happening, you love what you see. He flies down. And when he hits you, as you saw in the forced fumble that you showed, he hits you with some pop, with some force, which is awesome. The question is, how often does he accurately diagnose what he is seeing? And what does he look like when he misdiagnoses it or doesn't quite recognize it? Because especially as a rookie, that's going to happen.
Yeah, there was one play I didn't include it here. I should have, because it didn't cost the team at all. But they ran a play action fake. It was a play action pass, and he bit ridiculously hard. I mean, he was a yard into the backfield, then stopped and was looking around to see where the quarterback was going to throw the ball. Now, that kind of stuff is very common for rookie linebackers, even though these guys have been playing linebacker for 8 years or whatever by this point, and they're taught always to read the lineman, even back to the high school level. They still get caught up in this, especially at the NFL. Things move so fast. And so I remember seeing that a lot from Tatum Bethune and a lot from Jalen Graham early on. And D Winters. D Winters, I remember his rookie year was constantly flying downhill in the preseason and just not even aware of a lot of the passes that were coming behind him. But lost my mouse for a second. But we're going to see here, they're going to run a duo run. So you're getting these double team blocks. And again, it's one gap. So he's got to come up in his gap, especially on these duos. These linebackers got to come up and fill. They got to be a presence in the hole. Because you've got to make those linemen on the duo blocks make a decision. Am I going to continue to help and try and move the defensive tackle that's there, or am I going to go pick up the linebacker that's coming screaming down to the hole? And ideally, you want defensive tackles at the moment they leave, if your linebackers are attacking, that your defensive tackles can win and go make the tackle. Or your defensive tackles are so strong that they hold those guys and your linebackers are free to go clear. But your linebackers have to attack. And that's what's gonna happen here is they hit it, and you see that he's gonna come step up. I love the first step. Curtis Robbins is still adjusting back after his ACL. He's a little bit slow, but first step's always forward for a linebacker. Never have your first step unless it's like 3rd and 20. Your first step is never back. Your first step is always forward to go attack. His first step is forward. He's going to step up into his gap and then locate. So he fills his gap and then locates the running back. Curtis Martin, I'd like to see you come up, or Curtis Robinson, like to see you come up in, why did I call him the running back? Curtis Martin, Curtis Robinson, you got to fill a little bit more. Canteen's coming up to try and fill in the other gap. And he's going to track, and then he's going to go as he sees the running back commit. Now the running back's going to keep bouncing, and he's going to keep tracking. So this is going to go back and forth a couple times. So he goes, and then he goes, and then he gets a tackle. But I like the fundamentals on this. He filled where he stepped up into his hole. He saw it, stepped up, located the running back, and then went and still recovered and made the tackle. Love that rep. Just exactly what you want from a running back.
That was impressive because, like you said, he was diagnosing, and then he thought he was going to take off like, okay, the running back has made the choice. Let me go get him. And then when the running back bounced it outside again, he was still able to bounce it outside himself and make the tackle. He wasn't so far out of a position trying to attack that first time that he was unable to make the play the second time. So that was encouraging to me.
Yeah, it shows good angles too. He's not over pursuing, which is usually a big sin early on of linebackers. They always get so aggressive and they want to make a play so bad they start over pursuing. So here he's in man coverage, and the Chargers are running an old dragon concept. That's West Coast terminology for anybody who wants to learn some of the nomenclature terminology. Dragon comes from, it's a drag route, which is the outside route. It's not what Madden called it for years, a shallow crossing route. In West Coast terms, a drag is a quick to the flat, and then a lion is a slant route. That is why it's called dragon. It's drag plus lion. And so it's a slant flat concept. This is a man beater, and a lot of times the outside receiver will be number one, and inside is number two. A lot of times, depends on who's coaching it, how they want it. But you're going to get a rub action is why against man coverage, because this corner is going to trail in, and you're trying to create some rub action on this slant to the flat so your halfback can catch it and run up the sideline. So Nick Martin's got to see this, see the traffic coming his way, and he's got to undercut this traffic and still keep up with his running back going flying out to the flat. So I really like how he's heads up on this. You're going to see him adjust his angle and still go and cut the running back off, make a good tackle. Really nice man coverage, which if you're going to play man to mix some of these things up and bring pressure, your linebackers have to play man coverage on running backs and tight ends, and they have to understand this. This means communication. So he sees the traffic coming, he's going to step under, and then he's going to flatten out to take a good angle. So he's able to go cut the running back off and then force him back inside if he has to. So he's cut him off, and that closing speed makes a good open field tackle for a 1 yard loss. That is textbook linebacker play. Textbook linebacker play.
And I like that too, because that wasn't just him doing one thing on a play. He had multiple responsibilities, and he took care of each of those, and it was in the perfect position to make a play. And not only was in position, actually made the play, which with some of the 49ers defenders, we know they're okay with that first part of getting in position, but they don't necessarily make the second part of that play, which is to actually either break the pass up or tackle the ball carrier. Nick Martin did both on that play.
100%. I mean, so there's a lot of things to be excited about with Nick Martin and the splashes he's making. The other part is, okay, you're going to bring this kind of pressure look. You're going to bring all these guys up to the line of scrimmage. That means you're going to have to ask guys to do things that are tough. You can't just come up and line up like this every time and give somebody an easy assignment. You're going to have some tough assignments in here. So again, the Chargers are running this dragon, and Nick Martin is lined up over the center. He's in man coverage on the tight end. Okay. So just understand where he's already out leveraged by 3 spots. If you want him in man coverage, ideally you want him way out here, head up on the tight end, but you're disguising. You don't want to tip your hand. You want to be able to have this advantage as a defensive coordinator. This is why you go get guys with tons of speed, is now you can do this. Watch the way he's able to still cover to the flat. Same play we saw earlier, but now he doesn't have the advantage of being lined up over his man. He's got to go cover the tight end from a massive disadvantage of a head start, and he still gets out there and gets the tight end and makes a tackle, or actually really a pass breakup because the guy tried to catch it twice. Always catch it the first time. It's way easier.
Pro tip.
Yeah. If you need more tips, I'm always here. But just that kind of ability to cover like that, again, he is over the center, and this is his man. So that's how far out he is.
If you're just listening on the audio side, Nick Martin is on the hash, and the tight end he's supposed to cover is outside the hash, probably a little less than halfway between the hash and the numbers to the outside.
Yeah. I mean, that's not like, there's not a lot of linebackers that you task with that kind of stuff that can pull it off. When I saw that, I immediately was like, okay, this is the kind of stuff that we haven't really seen linebackers in San Francisco been able to do in a long time. We're talking about one of the fastest linebackers that San Francisco's had, maybe since Patrick Willis. I think D. Winters and him, it would be real close in a foot race, because I think D. Winters ran near a 4.4. But when you look at on-field speed, Nick Martin might be, it's going to be close, whether he's the fastest linebacker since Pat. Now, Pat was also like 35 pounds heavier than Nick Martin and still faster, which is just mind-boggling to think about the player that Patrick Willis was. But when you can start bringing that that level of speed back onto the field, I mean, my goodness.
See, now you've got me curious. Nick Martin is 5'11", and that 5'11" may be doing some work. Patrick Willis is 6'1". So yeah, slight difference there between the two. But I like what I'm seeing from Nick Martin now. You know, I listened to Dieter and Hutch, and their point with him is, on the good plays, he looks really good. The problem is on the other plays, he looks really bad. He either gets knocked around a little bit or he doesn't make the play. So, we're not saying Nick Martin's going to be an pro, but we talked about this at the start of training camp, how it's not just about how you look in any one practice or any one game. It's about the progression. How do you start and where did you end up? And I don't think even the biggest Nick Martin skeptics would say he looks way better now at the end than he did at the beginning. And so it's okay to be encouraged by that on August 28th.
100%. And, look, he's not, this is not the player that's going to be coming in seeing a lot of reps this year, if things go to plan. I mean, the idea is he is D. Winters' backup. Tatum Bethune is Fred Warner's backup, and Luke Gifford is the Sam. Like, this is the way that the roster is shaken out. Luke Gifford's spot is different than everybody else's spot. So, like, that's what people also have to remember, that there's a difference between Mike, which is for middle linebacker, Will, which is for weak side linebacker, Sam, strong side linebacker, that those different roles are different on this team. Your Mike is bigger. That's why Tatum Bethune and Fred Warner are the bigger guys. Your Will is your run and tackle guy. He's going to be oftentimes having to run and cover a lot of ground in space. So those are your real speed demons. Your Sam's a bigger guy. That's somebody who's going to be much more on the line of scrimmage. He's going to have to hold the edge at times against tight ends in the blocking game. These are different roles, but Nick Martin is the backup Will, and I feel very comfortable with that there. I think they want him to grow into a little bit more stout of an NFL body. He plays a little out of control. There was one player, I remember, he went to Phil. It was very similar to what we saw of Phil, and it was against a pulling offensive lineman, and he flew in to try and hit the pulling guard so hard, he only clipped him a little bit with his arm and almost fell through the hole because he's just being so aggressive. He'll lose his balance. He'll get a little bit out of control because he's flying so fast to the point. And then, like I said, the misdirections, because he's attacking so hard, he sometimes gets caught and has to then try and recover. He can sometimes, but you'd like to see, just like settle it down a little bit, let the game come to you. Use your speed when you have it. You don't have to rush so hard. Be quick, but not in a hurry is sort of the thing.
Hey, when did John Wooden get on the show? I know where you're pulling your stuff from. Well, all gas, no brakes, right? That's literally
right.
So that's when you have no brakes, you need to be able to stop sometimes, and that isn't always the case. But I'm encouraged. Like you said, you don't want him to have to be alongside Fred Warner immediately right away. Give him some time to grow. But I was worried after that first preseason game, like, oh no, is this another classic 49ers third round whiff? And there's things to be encouraged about where we could hold off to that point. Now, away from the linebackers, the Niners did make one waiver pickup yesterday. That was defensive tackle Jordan Jefferson. Now, maybe I'm just looking for things to be worried about, Johnny, but does the addition of Jefferson sort of throw up some red flags in your mind about their sort of discomfort with where Alfred Collins is right now?
I don't think so. I think he's going to be more a base defensive end size and then rotational. To me, he feels more of the Kevin Givens, Evan Anderson role a little bit more. He was, if I remember right, he was a 3-4 defensive tackle, but the end, like, played more 5 technique at LSU. And so he's a little bit smaller. He's more in that kind of Michael Williams size range as far as weight. But if I remember right, I took a lot of notes about him at the Senior Bowl. So because I had not been real familiar with him before that week, I went down there to Mobile. It's not too far from me. And I remember seeing him and I was like, man, this kid has some violent hands. It was in the war or in the position drills actually when he first jumped out. I was sitting there going through my roster sheet saying, okay, who is this kid from with the LSU helmet on? And because the violent hands just stood out in the D-line drills. I mean, everybody's doing the button rip moves and everything, and his just looked different. He was ragdolling the other defensive linemen. When you had some very good ones there, guys like Tavondre Sweat and stuff. His violent hands just stood out. And then I remember I made 4 marks on my paper during just that practice of incredible power, as they were going through the team drills and teamwork 11 on 11, that he was able to control the point, low center of gravity, and just use those violent hands to split blocks and make a lot of noise. And it is worth noting that the GM of the Jaguars who drafted him is back with the 49ers. So they had some inside scoop from, the team that drafted him on exactly what his development was like there in Jacksonville. And he actually did not play bad in Jacksonville last year. He was making the transition as far as to being more of an attacking 4-3 last year in Jacksonville. They're transitioning away from that. And so, he fits what they want to do. He had a lot of power. I mean, I think I remarked on my X account, I reposted this morning, when he was drafted by Jacksonville, that I was pretty bummed, because that was somebody I was sitting there saying the 49ers could get in the 4th or 5th round, that I felt was going to be a really good pickup last year. They didn't obviously get him, and Jacksonville got him, but they have him now. So I think if you're looking for another young guy that has a lot of upside, Jordan Jefferson makes a ton of sense. If you're trying to infuse this team with youth and add somebody with a bunch of upside, then this is your guy. Like, it makes a lot of sense.
If you were watching on the stream as Johnny was talking, Dieter Kurtenbach actually had a couple clips of Jefferson and was like, hey, look at this. This is pretty good. These are good additions. And then he followed it up with another clip that said, if you're wondering why he was available, sometimes it's because he gets taken for a ride. And it was a play against the Eagles where he just gets absolutely shoved out of the club. But again, as I said yesterday, like, everybody that they're going to add at this point has warts. So you just have to be able to accept that. In his case, look, there's some good, there's some bad, but I think it's a solid addition to the defensive line room. And I know they kept about 11 billion defensive linemen, Johnny. I actually feel pretty good in terms of position groups on the 49ers. Defensive line is maybe where I'm the most comfortable.
And it feels like you're not trying to emergency, kind of finger in the levee sort of stuff with the defensive line, with a bunch of, rotational guys from other defensive lines. This is a strong youth movement on the defensive line, and you still feel good about it, which is very encouraging. I will say, you can see him getting taken for a ride against the Eagles, but I think you can put on tape of almost any defensive tackle in the league and see him getting taken for a ride against the Eagles. When I think anybody against Landon Dickerson and their center is going to get taken for a ride at some point. I remember not Javon Hargrave. It was Javon Kinlaw was, that NFC Championship game, dude was getting ejected from the middle of the field out to the numbers by that Eagles offensive line. And we still kept him the next year. And he still had an okay, next year. So I'll give somebody a pass a little bit, if it's one clip. If you show me 10 clips of them getting ejected against the Eagles, I'll go, okay, we got an issue here. It's going to happen to somebody at some point against the Eagles. That's what the Eagles do.
Yeah, and it's hilarious too, because Javon Kinlaw, like, when you think of big NFL players and NFL bodies, like, he is it. And yet, it just goes to show, like, even a guy his size can get shoved around out there if you don't play with the proper technique and the proper leverage. And my God, did he? But I don't want to rehash that, Chad. It's August 28th. We're moving ahead. We're going to use
Sorry. Not looking back, looking forward. No rear view mirror in this car.
Windshield only, please and thank you. So we covered the jersey. We covered Nick Martin. Any other observations you wanted to make about the 53-man roster, the practice squad guys, or anything that jumped out to you?
I'm not feeling great about our receiver room. I don't know who Brock's going to be throwing to.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Not to cut you off, I apologize.
No, you're fine.
I tweeted something yesterday that I thought was just like a relatively benign tweet, and it blew up on X. And I was really surprised because I feel like this always happens when I say the most benign things, but for some reason people go nuts with that. So I'll pull up the tweet. This is what I said. I thought it was fairly innocuous. Call me crazy, but if the 49ers have Ricky Pearsall, Russell Gage, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey against the Seahawks, I feel like they'll be fine. And people are like, what, Russell Gage? And I'm just sitting there like, dude, they're not going to ask Russell Gage to have 15 catches in the game. He's going to have like 1 or 2 catches in the mode of like a Chris Conley. Pearsall is going to get a bunch of targets. Kittle will get targets. Hopefully they'll run the crap out of the ball. Like, I think that's enough. They should be okay.
I think for me, it's my biggest concern isn't that. If we went through that, I'm going, okay, the Seahawks are a very like mile deep team, but only about 50 feet wide. Yep. Like they're very average across the board. They don't have a lot of weaknesses, but they don't have anything that really stands out on either side of the ball. Their offensive line is still a work in progress. I mean, of course, I will say they went and got Gray Zabel, who was my favorite offensive lineman in this draft, period. And so the fact they got him, I was not happy about that. But I think it's more going, okay, but we haven't been able to make it through a week with the same receiver room finishing the week that started the week as far as the same number of bodies available. And so I go, okay, my concern is you get into the third quarter and Russell Gage goes down. Now, who are you putting out there? How many formations can you bring out there? And are the Seahawks just going to load up and say, we're going to put 9 men close to the line of scrimmage and we're going to blitz the crap out of your C gaps and force some things to happen here? That's my concern, is at some point here, the Seahawks, if you start running out of warm bodies to be able to put out there on the field, and are we going to trust MVS to be a guy to be a warm body out there? At some point they're going to try and put you in a box and say, we're going to make you play in a box and you have to play in this little area. And that makes it extremely difficult for that. And I just wonder, would this young defense break at some point there? That's what I get concerned about.
And that's a legitimate concern. Obviously, any amount of injuries in the game is always concerning, but when you don't have a ton of depth to begin with,
the Sam Darnold slander is real. It should not be tolerant. No, I'm just kidding.
Frisbee Life on Twitch says they have Sam Darnold without an elite defense. That's the best thing the Niners have going for them. Hey, Darnold cooked the Niners last year. Remember the 98-yard touchdown or whatever it was to Justin Jefferson? Sorry, windshield, not rear view. My bad.
Windshield, Rob.
We're doing, I didn't mean to go back. We're not,
because that was under Nick Sorensen. We have Robert Saleh now. We're not going to ask Odom to play man coverage on Justin Jefferson. Who could have foreseen that would have gone wrong?
Well, and Levin made the point yesterday, and I agree with him. Like, we had Sorensen all last year, and then we've seen Saleh this preseason do a lot of different things, a lot of more complex things, a lot of just non-vanilla things. Exotic is the word I was searching for. And Levin was like, we forgot what that looks like and what it's like and what it can do for your defense. And I completely agree. So that's why I'm at least encouraged about the defense this year. Ultimately, we'll see if it all pans out. Hopefully it will. But we are getting down to the nitty gritty here. The next time we talk, Johnny, we're going to be previewing a regular season football game. We can preview, I don't know what angle we want to take when we attack this thing, but we're getting into actual football that counts in the standings, and we have a regular season game to preview.
I got so excited, I nearly knocked my microphone off of its stand. See, mine's not mounted like yours. I got it mounted in a little basket, and I nearly knocked it out of the basket. I'm so excited to actually have a real NFL game to look forward to. I mean, it is right around the corner. I'm getting butterflies right now just thinking about it. It's awesome. This is what we live for, right? The season. It's here. I think the biggest question I have, there's several questions I'm going to have, and I want to see over this next week. Can CJ West get healthy? Because the run defense was much better with him and Kalia Davis in there than it has been at any point during the preseason. And so CJ West, to me, if I'm just from the outside looking in, looking at the preseason tape, if I'm the 49ers and I'm saying who's going to be my week 1 49ers starting lineup for defense, and I know Seattle's going to come in and they're going to want to pound the rock and they're going to want to set up play action for Sam Darnold, then for me, it's CJ West and Kalia Davis are your starting defensive tackles. And so I want to see, can they stop the run? If you stop the run against Seattle, I feel much better. But if we're giving up 4 and 5 yards a clip, I'm going to be biting my fingernails the whole time.
I have a feeling that is a question we're going to be asking not just about Seattle, but throughout the entire regular season, as stopping the run was a major issue for the 49ers. But if it happens, if it doesn't happen, we will be here breaking it all down for you. If there's something you want us to take a look at, leave it in your 5-star review on Apple Pods. Leave it in the comments on the YouTube video. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you want even more film breakdown, check out the Johnny Dale Football Academy on YouTube. It is a wealth of knowledge and information. I highly recommend it. You will learn so much about football in a very short amount of time. Again, Johnny Dale Football Academy. Johnny, thank you so much for joining us this week, as always.
Oh, always a good time.
We'll talk to you next week.